Welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, I sat down with someone very special, Vania Lopez, a driven entrepreneur who started her own mobile detailing business from the ground up. We had a powerful conversation about what it really takes to launch a business, how she got started, and the mindset shifts that helped her push through the challenges. This episode is sponsored by New Gen Marketing Company.
If you have a business and you're trying to boost your sales, increase your conversion rate, or just drive traffic to a website, if you have a product that you're trying to promote, we specialize in TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Google Ads.
We help you handle everything from A to Z. We specialize in getting you clients through proven marketing systems. Whether you're just getting started or already in business, we work within your budget to help you bridge the gap between where you're at and where you want to be. We offer services like website creation, Facebook ads, short form content, video editing, and full digital marketing management. And the best part, our guarantee. If you don't make back what you invest with us, we'll work for free until you do.
You don't even know that you were missing this key component. I'll leave the link down below. Keep watching this video. Stay tuned. Thank you for watching.
Well, first off, I want to introduce you. So, today's guest is a young entrepreneur with a story that will motivate anyone chasing a dream. Born and raised in Puebla, Mexico, she moved to the US at just 13 and has already launched multiple businesses by the age of 22. From building a full-time mobile outdoor detailing brand to helping organize major Latino events to launching a photo booth business and even venturing into real estate. She's a proud Latina making big moves while giving back to her community. Please help me welcome Vania Lopez.
Thank you so much for having me, Jesus. First of all, I want to thank you, and I would like to thank you for the space, for the openness, and for the opportunity to have me here in your channel.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you for taking the time to come and visit us, and I'm excited for today's interview. I want to talk a little bit about introducing yourself, where you're from, where you're coming from, how you got started in the entrepreneurship journey, and kind of just going with the flow.
Absolutely, absolutely. I am looking forward and as excited as you are to talk a little bit about the whole journey and the process of getting here and what it took, and of course the challenges and struggles that I have been through throughout this whole process.
Oh, yeah. I've noticed one thing that anybody and everybody has their own journey, and I feel like it's sometimes it's common to think oh, they're lucky. You look at somebody who's worked hard in life and you see their final result or where they're currently at, and you're like, they just got there because they're lucky. But one thing I've noticed is that regardless of what you do in life, where you're at, everybody has struggles, everybody has challenges. Regardless of whether somebody from the outside might look at you and be like, oh, well, they're successful. From their perspective, this person might be the unhappiest person on earth.
Oh, yes.
So that's one thing that I've learned, not to judge. And I understand that you can have all the money in the world, but maybe you lost your mom, or maybe you lost your dad, or you're going through a divorce, or who knows what the challenge is, but typically everybody's going through something.
Or I was gonna say, even you lost your mental health throughout the whole process of getting to the final outcome.
Exactly. Yeah, and I've gone through challenges myself, and I think the most important thing is always to keep moving forward and not let it stop you, regardless of what the challenge is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like you said, I have been here in the U.S. Almost 9 years, so I think I just completed the 9 years fully this past. Well, I'm gonna do 9 years in August. Since I came to the U.S. with my mom, my sister. She got married, and so that's the main reason why we ended up moving to the U.S. from Mexico. And so it was a huge process to kind of assimilate the new culture and to get used to a totally different society and values and a whole new country itself.
Right. The culture in Mexico is completely different, right? Even just the school system is two different worlds. What grade was that? 13. Like, when you were 13 years old, what grade were you in?
I was actually 14.
14.
So I was about to turn 15, and so when I got to the U.S., I actually got just into my freshman year.
Oh, okay.
I was done with my second last year of, I think it was middle school, but here in the U.S. it's 4 years of high school.
Right.
Down in Mexico it's 3. So I just got here in the perfect timing to get into my freshman year, start high school, and then going through the whole 4 years of high school,
right.
And then right after that graduating.
How comfortable did you feel speaking English at that time?
Not really, I think. I think up to today, it's as you can see, I still get an accent, which I'm no longer trying to get rid of.
Okay.
But I think that I still had that prejudice and that kind of that insecurity back then 9 years ago when I just recently moved to the U.S. just because I knew the language, however, I wasn't feeling super comfortable speaking it, just because I had the huge blessing and opportunity to be in bilingual schools while I was in Mexico. So I remember from first year of elementary growing up to middle school, I was half of my day would be in English, half of my day would be in Spanish. So that really helped me a lot to develop the understanding of the language, but not the speaking. Even though you speak a lot, in
right.
English, it's not gonna be the same as living in a country where it's
full time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that makes sense. The reason I ask is just because I'm a lot more introverted.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm uncomfortable doing something, speaking a whole new language in a whole new place, I would have just been. I was already shy as
right.
it is, and I spoke the language, so that's why to me it's just fascinating that you were able to just jump into a whole new world and just go with it. And no, I mean you have an accent, but it's not broken English. You make perfect
sense.
No, I watched some of your interviews, and the way you speak is very it's inspiring to me, because I'm I grew up, my first language was Spanish.
Okay.
So all I spoke was Spanish, and then up until 3rd grade I had to take extra reading and speaking classes so I could speak English, because at home I just spoke Spanish. And for me it's always been pretty important to speak Spanish fluently. I've never really wanted to be a no sabo.
yeah.
Sometimes it comes out like that, and it is what it is, but I do always want to get better at everything that I possibly can. So if I can improve my speech in both English and Spanish, well then I continuously work on it. So that's why when I saw some of your interviews and just how fluent and how natural you speak, it's wow, I liked it. I was intrigued by it, and I was I want to aspire to speak like that and be comfortable in Spanish. Yes, English too, I guess.
So would you say that you lost your Spanish a little bit, or would you say that you're still very fluent in both, or I mean, especially in Spanish?
I would say that I'm pretty fluent. I think where I feel I lack a little bit is sometimes using a bit more complicated words.
Okay.
So sounding a little bit more a level up. I can express my thoughts. Sometimes I will get what's the word I'm trying to think of? But yeah, I don't know. I guess just being a little bit more, trying to match up my English level to match my Spanish to my English level.
I was gonna say some of the times you're not gonna find the exact word for everything that you're trying to translate, just because of the cultural difference that there is in between.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I watch a lot of YouTube. So I watch YouTubers from Monterrey, and then some from Michoacan, and then some from DF. So they all have different words for different things. So I'm which one is it?
And different accents as
different
well.
accents, different tonalities. Yeah.
No,
so
totally
that's why
understand.
it's I want something standard, but that I can match with my English.
Which in Latin American countries it's super hard to find because you're not gonna find just one
Standard.
particular accent, but there's just so many that you will find.
So sophisticated.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Okay, so you started school freshman year, and then all through the 4 years, like, what were some of the challenges? Like, was it pretty smooth? Did you make friends right away? Did you struggle? Did you kind of like stay to yourself? Or
I was actually a totally different person. I was a completely different person when I was in Mexico, and growing up in Mexico, I was very outgoing, I would socialize with every single person. Like, I have been always a very extroverted person. Like, I have never been shy or like, quiet or anything like that. But as soon as I moved to the US, that insecurity of not fully speaking the language and having a super strong accent really made me just like kept everything to myself, not have many friends at the moment while I was in high school. And I have to confess that I was a bully in Mexico, like during my middle school years, and even in elementary, I was like one of those kids that would just bother everyone in the classroom, and people would follow me, and if I said something, then people would go ahead and do whatever I asked them to do. But moving here, it really like humbled me a lot, and also because I didn't have my dad, so he stayed in Mexico, and one of the people that I look up to the most is my dad. So growing up in Mexico, I knew that he would just immediately come in and take care of everything, figure everything out for me, right? So moving here to the US with my mom really made me to like realize that I didn't have that. No, not anymore. So I think during my 4 years of high school, I was very introverted, didn't really make a lot of friends. I was super shy. I actually got super good grades. I was doing really good in school. And up until I was done with high school and graduated, that's when I decided to just come out to society, I guess, to the real world as I was, like, as the personality that I currently have, and not trying to keep anything from the people around me. Not my accent, not the language, not my mindset, my personality, and everything that really made me. So I think that really describes how I felt during those years.
I mean, that's just crazy to even think about. Like, your whole world just got flipped upside down, and
Exactly. No, yes. While I was living in Mexico, since I was literally born, I had the huge blessing of having the financial resource and not really having to worry about money, just because my dad's a doctor, and so he was already very financially stable to buy everything, to pay for everything. If we wanted to go out, if we wanted to go on a trip, whatever it was, we knew that we could count on him, even as right now. But moving to the US really, really made me to realize the value of hard work, of working for what you want in life, and not just simply asking for the money, like, hey, can I have this, or hey, can you buy this for me? And I think regardless of the support, and I think mainly the support from my parents and my family, I just really put in my mind that I had to work very hard for the dreams and the goals that I had in mind since I was very little, and that I couldn't ask my parents for help 24/7. Because even though I knew that they were gonna be there, I didn't feel comfortable enough asking them, either for money or to be there, or to figure everything out for me. Mm-hmm.
Was that something that would you say that was something that your parents taught you? Like, hey, someday you're gonna not rely on us, you have to work, or was it something that you just put it together?
I think I saw, while growing up in Mexico, I saw my dad working 24/7. So he's a man who is a provider for his family. He really knows how to take care of his family, and I saw him work 3 jobs during all my years in Mexico. And so seeing that, not having a lot of time to spend with him really taught me that I had to do the same, and that I had to one day provide for my family, and to have my job, to not rely on people, and to just try to build something for myself.
Right.
I knew that I wanted to go into business and entrepreneurship just because since I was very little, I remember since I was probably 6 years old, I would visualize myself having so many businesses, not specifically what, but I knew that I wanted to go into business. And I remember going to my grandma, my mom's mom, and telling her, because she's kind of like, she's not an accountant, but kind of, so I don't know what she does specifically, but she's into like numbers a lot and having to do with businesses down in Mexico. So I remember going to her and telling her like, hey, I'm gonna have a hotel, and how much do you think I should be putting in towards the investment, and how much should I put into this? So I remember telling her and asking her a lot of these questions,
Right.
business related, and so I just knew that I was going for it. I just didn't really know how or what exactly. But yes, I think seeing my dad, answering your question, seeing my dad work a lot throughout his whole life, even up until today, whenever we go to Mexico to visit, he's always working, and he'll create the time to spend with us now that, we have grown up. But seeing him during my childhood, I think it really made an impact in my life.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's typically how it happens. Like what you grow up seeing is what you eventually become. Or not always, but most often. Like that's what typically happens. You monkey see, monkey do. You know. But now that you've explained all that, it's like it was a blessing in disguise, because maybe had you stayed in Mexico and maybe had you not made that realization, it's a lot easier to just ask,
Exactly.
Like, can I have this? Can I have that?
Especially when there's a financial tool.
Right.
It's just so easy to just ask for it. And even right now, there's a lot of people sometimes that I get along with, or that I am surrounded by, that a lot of the times ask, like, hey, why don't you just go back to Mexico and just, like, live a great life down there with your family and friends, because most of my friends are actually in Mexico.
Right.
But I have always had this thought of, and this mindset of, building something for myself to be able to provide for the people that are around me.
Right.
And not just simply asking for it.
Right.
Otherwise, you don't get to learn, like the struggle and what it really takes to get from point A to point Z.
Right. And like you mentioned earlier, like, you were a completely different person when you just got here to who you are now. And those challenges and those trials and errors of going for it, it teaches you and changes you, and you build and you adapt, and it forces you to grow and evolve into somebody that it's kind of like never ending, you know what I mean? Especially when you're on this journey, it feels like it's never ending.
Oh, yes.
You never stop.
Yes.
Learning and changing.
It creates a lot of resilience when you're having to constantly, you're having to adapt constantly into a new world, a new culture, a new language. So it just gives you that motivation to keep moving forward, regardless of what you're feeling, regardless of, if you feel like it or not. Well, it is what it is, and you just gotta keep pushing it and work and keep working.
Right. No, that's crazy. I think it, like for me, it was my grandpa. I saw my grandpa, and my dad too, of course, but my grandpa was more business minded.
Okay.
My dad was work. Like,
Okay.
didn't matter what he was doing. Like he still does, obviously, but like my grandpa was more like, how do we buy this so we can sell it for this, and it was more business, and that's where I got it from.
Okay.
He gave me different ideas for different things, like, oh, you should start your own business, so fixing cars or doing this and doing that. And it was like for me, it was like owning my own business someday, but never. I didn't like any of the ideas that he threw out there, so it was like I know I want to start a business, but I don't know what. But like it was always
what field?
that was the question. But then in high school too, it was like, which brings me to my next question. So like, in high school, you're expected to get good grades so that you can get into a good college. And like, what are you gonna go to college for is the question. It's not necessarily, at least in my case, it was like, that's what I felt like. Of course, there's different options, and if you talk to some people, they'll give you better options based on what you want. But I didn't really talk to anybody, so for me, what I felt like was I'm expected to pick something to go to college and study, so I can get a career and job and stuff like that. It wasn't necessarily like, what business do you want to start? What's your passion? It wasn't that. That wasn't how I felt, at least. So for you in high school, like, were you already thinking about what business am I going to start after, or were you like considering going to college to study something, or?
So, of course, the expectation from both of my parents, my mom and my dad, was always to go to college right away after being done with high school, and not necessarily getting a good paying job, but at least going to college and, getting my career done so I would have that as a backup, which I do believe that it's a great idea, and I don't judge anybody who goes after that, just because we all, like you said, we all have different pathways to follow. We all have different resources and opportunities to approach. However, I knew since since I was very little, I knew that I didn't really want to go for the typical or like the standard and the average lifestyle, but I also knew and kept in mind that I was gonna give up a lot of things in return. So I knew what I needed to sacrifice in order to get to those levels. One of those was not going to college right away. And the idea that came in my mind, I think it was my senior year, while I was still in high school, was to do an automobile detailing business. Just because I truly don't remember, like, it actually started, like I told you, as a side hustle. So it came in my mind one day, while I was like decluttering and arranging some stuff in our old apartment, and I had like a couple buckets of water and stuff, and so it came to my mind that I didn't really see those many businesses out here in the community in Sioux Falls doing, washing cars and really like putting the effort into cleaning their vehicles from the inside specifically. Like, I knew that there were car washes, but not people having an auto detailing business, or at least I didn't see it 5-6 years ago, right? So I just saw the opportunity to get into, like, I saw the gap, and I was like, okay, well, I should probably take advantage of this opportunity. So I started doing a lot of research in that moment about how to get into auto detailing business, and I started realizing that it was very profitable and with very minimal investment. So I actually started investing a little bit of money into some of the supplies, the equipment, chemicals, etc. Started building my little setup, started asking friends and family if I could detail their own vehicles, and I wouldn't charge at least at first. And so after graduating, I had the setup, but I didn't really have like a solid focus on how to start, the LLC, or even after that the EIN. So after that whole year of just having it as a side hustle, I stopped. I stopped completely because I got into the board of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and so that was taking most of my time while I was volunteering a lot within the community, going through a lot of programs, and then I actually ended up getting the opportunity to join the Co-Starters program, which really like helped me a lot to get to know the foundations of business. And so when I was part of Co-Starters, that it's basically a business program. I don't know if you have ever heard about Co-Starters.
Not co-starters, but similar programs.
Mhm.
I have.
So I got into Co-Starters, and it was amazing because it was through like a scholarship that I think a company had put funds into, and so we didn't really have to pay anything for the whole program. And they really taught me a lot of valuable content in regards with business. And so after being done and completed the whole program, which was I think it was 3 months of the whole thing, 15 of those students got selected to do a pitch for their businesses. And then there was like I think it was, I don't know how much money it was for the prize, but it was a good amount of money. And so my business got selected to do the pitch. And so there were like a couple filters. So it was first pitch that was a little bit more informal, and then the second one that was the last one that you got to do it in front of a few investors and then a whole audience. And so I got into the last phase of doing the pitch, which it wasn't really my point and my idea to get the investment.
Right.
Just I wanted to experience, what it was to do a pitch in front of investors, to eventually do it again, right?
Oh, yeah.
For the business. And so I ended up doing it, and I think the competition was 10 businesses. Most of those business owners were already in their late 20s, 30s, even 40s, and I was the only one that was, I think at the time I was either 18 or 19.
Jeez.
The only one.
Yeah.
And I remember I had studied the whole pitch over and over for weeks, right? And I had a couple people helping me with that. And at the moment that I had to do my pitch...
Oh yeah, it's at 28. Sorry.
No, you're good.
At 26.
At the moment I had to do the pitch, I remember that I just went, like, I initiated the whole speech and the whole thing. Amazing. And then almost by the end, when I was closing the pitch, I just completely forgot everything.
In the moment.
Oh
my gosh.
And so it took me a few seconds to kind of like...
Try to remember.
Try to remember what I was going to say. And, I mean, I ended up closing it and everything. It was a really good pitch, and one of the judges ended up telling me that I was off by 1 point for getting that investment.
Wow.
But yes, so going back to the question, I didn't really, I just saw the opportunity, I saw the gap, I took the advantage of just doing something that I knew that there was not a lot of competition within the market that I was, especially within the Latino and Hispanic market. I didn't really know any auto detailing businesses out there. And so I would say that I was one of the very few that started in 2021 as a mobile detailing business.
Right.
And then after being in the board after 2 years, then I got back to it full time. But then a year later, I transitioned to the club.
Okay.
I ended up transferring that. It was only open for a few months because it was a business partnership. And then right after that, that's when I got back to it. So officially that I have been running full time the business has been 2 years. 2 years. 2 years. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you talk about the pitch like so casually.
Yeah.
Real quick, if you're getting value from today's episode, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to make sure that you never miss out on a new video.
Yeah, you talk about the pitch like so casually that like I mean, first of all, like it can definitely be intimidating to talk to investors or just the idea of pitching your business to an investor. Like, what if they reject me? What if they say no? Like, that fear alone will make a lot of people like not even get there, you know?
Right.
Especially like at such a young age. I mean, 18, 19, like to go through that process. Like, were you like the way you made it seem was like you just went for it and like you went for it and you went for it.
I didn't really have that much time to think about it.
about it.
Otherwise, I would have just freaked out.
Right. Would you say that that's like your natural personality? Like, if you have an idea, like you commit to it, like you just go and start doing the steps to it for it, or?
I think that's one of my biggest problems and one of my biggest strengths. That when I get an idea in my head, it's like almost impossible that I forget about it. So I start off doing it and creating it and putting it into tangible results. But then I have committed already to, X amount of things.
Right.
That a lot of the times it's one of the things that I struggle with. Just because I tend to start up so many new things without completing one.
Right.
And so that's when my girlfriend comes into play and tries to
stay here.
redirect me to a lot of these things that I had committed to before. Yes.
Okay, that's crazy because like I'm the same. I have an idea and like I'm gonna start doing that, but I'm already doing so many different things that like it's definitely a challenge. And my wife, the same thing.
Yeah.
Like,
are you ADHD?
A new thing. Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
In school, it was very hard to focus because I realized this later on that like I can definitely sit in a room for 8 hours and like work straight on like several things, but I have a limit. Like I have to transition every 40 minutes to like something different, and if it's just one thing, I can get like mind fog and like get stuck.
Right.
So I've understood how I operate the best. So like having little to no sound, or if so, like nothing with words, kind of just like a background like frequency almost, and then I can set up the environment for me to be most productive. But no, that's just I think that's a natural trait to get things done, because you can also be the opposite, and you have an idea and you have an idea and you have an idea and like you never did anything with it.
Well, and I can tell you that the number of things that have crossed my mind doing, it's just
so many.
So many.
Yeah.
But you can only do
so much. That's true.
And so I think one of the things that I have lately in my mind very present is, how do you know that X business idea will be great if you haven't even put the amount of work and time especially into it for a limited period of time.
Right.
Sometimes that requires 4, 5, 6, even 10, 15 years.
Right.
To get to the point and to the level and the results that you're aspiring to.
Right.
And so that's how I like seeing things now. So how do I know if the business is going to be a great business if I haven't even put the work and the time into it that it's required, to be a successful business?
Right. And I think for me it's what if I like commit fully to just one thing and then years later I realized that I was doing the wrong thing. Like so for me it was always like eventually I've become comfortable trying something new or testing a new area because I might enjoy it more than what I'm currently doing. And in some cases it's been true. So like I started off cutting hair I ended up breaking my thumb playing basketball. It wasn't anything serious, but it was just like for fun. But since I broke my hand, I couldn't use my hand. I couldn't cut hair anymore, and that was the point where I like realized that, well, if I'm gonna stick to cutting hair and I'm sick or something happens, well, that's the stop. Like it's gonna stop the income and it's gonna stop the business. So I need to
transition to
something different, find a different route, and then that's when I started my journey of testing new things, trying different things, and I've definitely realized that there were things that I enjoy a lot better, just for fits the lifestyle, fits. I see myself doing it more long term, opposed to like cutting hair. I had to be doing it in order for it to function. Which it doesn't mean that I like completely abandoned it. I just don't personally do it, but my position or my role in that business just evolved, which I'm sure yours has as well. Like, I see that you have a team of people that help you, at least in the detailing business. Or
it's just a couple. It's just a couple of people.
Okay. And I do see that you are hands-on too. So, like, can you kind of explain? So first of all, auto detailing. You saw the opportunity. You went for it. Was cars something that you were like maybe passionate about, or was it just you saw the opportunity? Business makes sense. Let's do it.
I think it was mainly the business opportunity that I saw in the market, especially being in the Latino and Hispanic culture. And I was never really passionate about cars. I don't know anything in terms of models, years, and how they're fabric and stuff. I mean, I saw my dad having really nice cars when I was growing up in Mexico. He loves sports cars. And so I saw him, constantly changing his cars, but that's about it. What was your question? How the business idea has evolved during the times?
Right. So, like, okay. Well, the first question, I think you answered it. So, like, you saw your dad having cars, but you were never to, like, oh, that's a Hyundai.
Right,
this
no.
2006.
No, yeah.
From June,
I mean, I love sports cars.
Yeah. But
Like
kind of just like...
everybody else.
Okay.
But nothing...
But more of a broad...
Right.
Okay, me too.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely, like, intrigued when people are, like, they just listen to the sound of...
And they're like,
that's
this is... Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not
I
even
could
close.
never... No, me either.
That sounds loud.
It sounds really nice.
Very nice. So then you started out as a hobby, just because you saw the opportunity, you did some research, you started with friends and family, you weren't charging anything at first, you just wanted to get the experience. When was it that... Well, then you kind of put it to the side, you did the pitch. What happened after the pitch?
So right after the pitch, I just kept doing it for that whole year. I had most of the equipment that I needed and that I required in order to provide a good, customer service, a good service overall. So that didn't really stop me from just, not doing it. So I just kept doing it that whole year. And then after that year, I met my ex-business partner. And so I started developing the whole business plan for the club that we had together. And so that really took a lot of my time. So while I was still detailing, I was also developing our projections, our numbers, trying to get our funding for the club, trying to get our whole thing together. And so when we opened the bar, that was in January 2024, it literally took me way longer to build the whole business plan than what we were open. So we were open only for, I think, 3-4 months. And then I ended up transferring the business. And then after that, that's when I got back into detailing. because it was one of the hardest moments throughout my whole entire career after closing the bar, financially, emotionally, and that's one of the things that people don't talk about.
Right.
The struggle and the challenges that you encounter on the way of, trying to achieve your dreams and your goals. And so I remember that when I was little, I knew that something was going to happen, either sooner or later, just because that's how I think that life is. Sometimes something needs to happen within business,
Right.
for you to realize a lot of things and to learn. And so I know that a lot of people have those valuable lessons, right? And so I had mine with the club. And right after that, I was like, okay, well, I have the auto detailing business that it's still running and that people know a lot about it, and that I mainly get a lot of referrals from my detailing business. So most of our clients are actually referrals, which I think when you're in business, that really says a lot from your work when most of the clients are referrals. So we just kept getting a lot of new clients over time right after closing the club. So I got back into it. I kept investing more money into it. And right now I think I have a really good and solid setup. So I have a truck. I ended up getting a truck because of the business. Right. And right after that, I think the mindset shifted from, okay, so I have been self-employed for a few years now, to operating the business as more as an outsider than being self-employed. So I think I'm currently right now in between the middle of trying to maintain myself a little bit away from the business, but at the same time building the foundations and the right processes for the people that will be coming,
filling in the positions.
Right. And so right now I am currently working with a few guys, my two guys that are doing most of the details that I have or that we have. And so I think it's mainly about making it automated, right? So how you build your foundations will operate the whole business, even if it's with you or without you.
Right.
And so I think right now I am just really trying to keep pushing it to a point where I don't have to be there physically and present for the business to operate by itself. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's I feel like to get to that phase, or because I feel like you go through different phases when you start a business. Some people, they stay like hands-on their entire like lifespan of the business. They're always the one providing the service. But I feel like it makes more sense for somebody like you or I that like we have different ideas and we want to do more different things. So like it is important for us at least to have a system or build it out so that, like you mentioned, it operates with or without us.
Keeping the same quality,
the
same expectation, and the same outcome, I think.
That's the challenge.
And that's a huge challenge for business owners.
Because like nobody's gonna care about it as much as you.
Right.
And you're gonna be there 16, 20 hours a day if you need to, but not everybody's gonna care about it the same.
And nobody will align, the same level as committed and passionate as you are.
Right.
And so I think that's one of my biggest, I would say, challenges, trying to find the right people to bring on board when it comes to business.
Right.
Just because I already had an experience where, with the club, where we didn't really align in terms of our values and how we were seeing the business, and I felt that I was going this way, he was going the other way, and so a whole chaos.
Right.
So we just decided to take our own ways. But I think one of the main important and essential things in business, if you're trying to partner up or even just to hire somebody or people to, work for you, is making sure that they are aligned with the values, not just with you, but for the company.
Right.
That's what will matter at the end of the day.
Right.
What's best for the company.
I think a quote or a statement, I'm gonna not say it correctly, but it was like, be quick to fire and slow to hire or something.
Yes, absolutely.
Get to know who you're investing your time and resources into, and if it's not a right fit.
Into getting to know your people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've also dealt with my fair share of employees and coworkers and stuff like that, and I think I was always. It was hard for me to put my foot down. I was always like, I feel bad, or like.
Right.
I felt like I was too nice.
Yeah, and I am the same way.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It's very hard for me to be tough and hard on people, just because I am super empathetic and I try to really take care of the people.
Right.
But in business, what will matter is, if you have the right people aboard.
Nowadays, I put I use ChatGPT,
I use it a lot. I don't blame you. I use it a lot.
It's like I'll type out how I really feel, and I'll be like, how do I say this without hurting their feelings?
Yeah. It's all about using the right prompts.
Yeah. But naturally, I'm like, well, I want to tell them to stop doing that, and I need them to do this or that. How do I say it nicely? And then it gives me an
yes,
idea.
absolutely. It's my right hand as well.
Let me fix that. Where were we?
Oh, ChatGPT.
ChatGPT. Are there certain tools that you use on your day-to-day, maybe it's social media, maybe it's, I don't know, appointment systems?
I think lately, to be honest with you, has been Notion. Notion, it's great at keeping systems and processes in place, having everything organized, structure, and just keeping literally my whole life in there, but at the same time being organized and aligned with all what I do. So from, appointments to the processes on how to do certain stuff for the details, keeping our templates, our invoices, literally every single thing is on Notion. Yes, I think it's a great tool.
Right.
And it keeps everything very organized. And when it comes to delegating and trying to leverage most of your work, people having that access to the same files or, most of the information they need in order to succeed at what they're doing is essential.
Oh, yeah.
So I think lately is Notion, what is it, Calendly?
Yep.
To let people know, about your timing. And I typically try to set everything up for what's coming up next on Sundays. Okay. So that's what I usually do. On Sundays, I put everything down on my calendar and make sure that I have every single appointment, detailing, booking, meeting, whatever it is, I have it on my schedule. I am very, very ADHD, and so I need to have everything on my phone. Otherwise, I'll forget.
Yeah.
And with so many things going on, it's just impossible to try to remember every single thing.
Right. Mm-hmm. I have been a lot more consistent lately on being organized and using processes and systems that help me keep everything I need in one place, because same thing, there's so many different things that I'll realize it a week later, oh yeah, that's right, I was supposed to do that. Right. So having those systems in place.
I used to do a lot of different apps, Google or the phone, like the iPhone calendar or many other apps, but I would just delete them or forget that I had this specific thing on this specific app. So I think just condensating everything on one thing, it's easier for me.
Right.
Yeah, more effective.
I'm gonna have to try that out because
Give it a try. It's really good.
Okay.
And it's free, and
Yeah.
that's what I also use for some of the people that I am currently working with.
Okay. And since they have access to it, just like you mentioned, like it is important instead of like having to send this to that person on Snapchat and this to them on Facebook.
Exactly.
And this to them.
Having everything on the same place so you guys can be on the same page as well.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Referrals. So like, I know that like, so in order to get referrals, you have to do a good job. They're
Absolutely.
not gonna refer you if you're doing just
Absolutely.
whatever.
Uh-huh.
So that says a lot about the business and the service, and I would say that comes when you really focus on the quality. Like, so like where or how would you say that you learned like the actual like, because from barbering I've learned that like, hey, it's important to have the right lighting. It's important to have a good razor so that you can, it makes your life easier, gives the result a lot better. So I'm assuming that with detailing, you need, some products help take out stains easier than other products, or there's tips and tricks that you like learn along the way. Where would you say was like your main place, or has it been multiple different places?
I think it like the places where I have received and gained content and knowledge from has been literally YouTube. Like YouTube has been my lifesaver.
Yeah.
And people don't realize, and now TikTok. Like there's really every single thing that you're trying to do, or how to speed your processes or to be more efficient. Like the content is on social media, is out there. So if you're not doing what you're trying to do, is just because you're not wanting to do it, because everything's out there, and it's just a matter of being disciplined and committed into the things that you do to gain that experience. And then hands-on, right? Like how are you going to learn something or a skill if you're not even doing it yourself, giving it a try. So I think it mainly started as trying to build our processes for each package that we currently offer through different channels that are on YouTube, right? And so trying to get the most important, like not lessons, but the most important points from each channel, from each detailing channel, and then implementing that on our business, and after that seeing what works best for us with the resources and the tools that we currently have, right? And then reinvesting most of the money that comes in the business is super essential. So not just limiting X amount of money to the business, but most of the money goes back to the business, and that's mainly how you keep growing the business. So I think it's mainly social media, how I have gained all the knowledge from, to be honest with you, just because since I knew that I was one of the very few businesses starting in Sioux Falls, within the Latino market, I didn't really feel comfortable asking others for help. And unfortunately, sometimes what happens within our culture is that people are not wanting to share that knowledge. And so I think when it comes to people asking me now for knowledge, I don't hesitate to provide and share that knowledge, because I didn't really have nobody to ask the questions I had, specifically for the business, in terms of, okay, how do I do this? Or how would you take this off? How would you clean this, So when it comes to younger guys, and I've had a lot of people in the last year asking for help, and even like me mentoring them, I don't say no just because I honestly believe that giving back to the community or to a community that has given me so much in terms of help in other aspects of my life, it's really, really important. So, social media, hands on the business, trying different products, trying different brands, and I think lately has been TikTok, to be honest. And I think when it comes to detailing, really, really having a lot of patience and, like the name says it, being really detail oriented. There's a lot of things that you're gonna miss at first just because you don't have the experience. Sometimes you just gotta be super patient with your own processes because you don't know the foundations at first. But as you get more comfortable with detailing more cars, different products, different materials, also because a lot of the vehicles will not be the same.
Right.
So it won't be, I don't know, full interior detail for a construction truck than a sports car that it's well maintained, right? And so the amount of work and products that you will use into each one of them will be super different. Right. But I think it has been mainly not having the fear of messing up. And so the first year, I just really went into, asking people for their feedback, for, if I could detail their vehicles, and clearly caring about their assets just because you're not gonna just go and mix, X amount of chemicals, not knowing how alkaline and the pH balance of each product. But I think when it comes to knowledge and content, I would say social media. There's a lot of valuable content out there that people are missing if they're not already into social media. And I think even for most businesses, like I've met so many people that have different and diverse businesses that when you ask them, you would think that they probably went to college for it. And a lot of them would tell you and will tell you that they actually gained knowledge from, messing up.
Right.
From being a failure, from making that mistake. And so going back to the club, I got to learn so many things, so many valuable lessons, business wise, personally wise, that I could have not learned if I probably, that college wouldn't taught me.
Right. You can read it in a book, but it's different when it actually happens.
Right.
You feel the emotions of going through it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's crazy. I had something. I think what comes to mind is like fail a lot and fail often. Obviously, like don't deliberately fail, but I think the premise of that saying is like you want to get into the field and like gain the experience and make mistakes, not deliberately. Don't try to make the mistake, but like if you make mistakes, it's because you're taking a lot of action.
And I think also when it comes to detailing, it's super important that you're reinvesting some of that money back into your education, either whether it's through a certification, through a course, through whatever it is that you're reinvesting money into your education in terms of that specific field of the business.
Right.
I know that for some people it could be reinvesting it back into learning how to window tint, which is one of the most important assets in the detailing industry, right? Like window tinting, ceramic coating, polishing, paint correction. There's a great market for that. But you just gotta reinvest it back into learning that skill.
Right.
And some people how they would like to see it is by just simply reinvesting it back into chemicals and that's it, or equipment, but not into their education. And so I think that will really create a huge impact and difference that will set you apart from the rest.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something pretty important to note, that like kind of like how I mentioned earlier, that like there's some people that like they just work. Maybe they have a business, but they're the ones that are working, and they kind of never really grow out of that phase. Which again, it's like to each their own. Like everybody's different. Some people enjoy that, you know.
Right.
Some people just want to not have to go somewhere to work for somebody else. They just would rather work for themselves. Like my grandparents, like they still work to this day at their own store, and like they do their own thing, and like they take time off. For me, I think I am more like I would like to take a step back and just be with my family, or have the option to not have to do it.
Exactly.
But I wouldn't have known to take those steps into like further educating yourself into like, because one thing is like learning the business, like learning about detailing, and then as you get further along, there's learning about how to hire and fire people, building the systems, so that it doesn't matter who it is, like the steps are so simple that they can replicate it. Having the packages of tools for everybody, but I wouldn't have known about those things had I not had the aspiration to build and grow and eventually be out of the business. And I think a lot of that knowledge has come from, for me, it's always been YouTube.
Right.
I like TikTok, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't too into TikTok until more recently. When I started cutting hair, there wasn't even that much content on YouTube, but I watched the same few videos like all the time, and that's how I literally have learned everything I've ever learned. I have done some courses here and there, but the majority, even of what's on the course, like I've paid money for courses online and stuff like that, but like whether it was over time, like I found all the same information on YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that.
When you realize that, when I tell you that, you know, sharing this with the people that will see this, that there's so much valuable content, knowledge, and experience that you can gain from what is being put out there in social media, such as, you know, YouTube, TikTok, etc. You'll realize that sometimes it's not worth to spend so many years in school or college, which it really depends on what you're going to or what you're going for. I mean, of course, and clearly, if your aspiration is to become a lawyer or a doctor, of course, go for it. But I think when it comes to entrepreneurship and business, you can really create a lot of things with the tools that you currently have.
Right. Without the need of having a substantial amount of money to invest. Yeah, and I think that that's very important, because it is a misconception oftentimes that like, oh, I'd like to have a business, but like I don't have money. Or,
I need so much money.
You know, so like you can typically like even if you have a friend or somebody, there's a way that you can get what you need to have your initial setup and start doing it with friends and family. And I think it is just important to let go of the fear of starting and doubt. I feel like oftentimes fear and doubt can stop you from even starting.
Exactly, and knowing that you will fail, you will make mistakes, you will, you know, like, you will say the wrong things, and it's totally okay. As long as you learn from those mistakes and you don't repeat them constantly, then it's fine and you'll get over it. But especially if you learn from them, I think that's where the lesson comes in. As long as you're learning from the things that you messed up with, then you should be fine. And as long as those mistakes don't cost you so much money or X amount of money, that's also one of the biggest things to keep in mind in business. But yes, I mean, you don't really get to learn and to do things or further things if you don't give them a try first, right? Like with my detailing business, I remember when I first got my whole setup and I put it in the back of my car. I had an old 2007 Hyundai. It was a Santa Fe model, and so it was a really nice car in terms of I had paid it off, so I didn't really have to, monthly put that payment towards the bank or anything, and so most of the money would go back into the business. And at first it was super scary. I mean, I had put probably a few $1,000s into it and not knowing if it was going to work out, if we were going to get any clients. I mean, it was mainly me running the business, and I also have to give a huge shout out to my sister and one of my closest friends, Valeria and Aisa, that helped me a lot with running the business that first year. Because we were getting so many clients during the summer that it was almost impossible for me to run it by myself, but I still didn't have enough funds to pay them. And so I would ask for help, and they never expected me to pay them because they knew the situation. And so I would only pay for meals, right? And that's a huge blessing that I had from them, and the support, of course, from my parents, but them specifically working on the details, getting the job done. And then after that, now this year that I'm able to provide, of course, the payment and to be able to hire a couple people, then I'm always super happy and glad that I'm able to pay them. I've been trying to get back into it. The creatine, I love it.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I'm just gonna have to give it a try.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can have this one.
Oh, thank you. Are you sure?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
It doesn't have any flavor. It's
I don't like it, the flavor. Yeah.
It is the powder, so.
So I know there's like gummies and stuff, right?
Yeah, it makes it a little easier to consume. That is one thing I guess I would say about it, that like if it's hard for you to take the powder down, then the gummies are the better route. Which I believe there will be a gummies version of the creatine coming out soon. Because of the camera, I think we have to do an outro, because I want to get the outro at least on video. But we've covered a lot of different things. I feel like we've talked about mindset, we've talked about starting the business, we've talked about just doing it, taking action. We've talked about how to find the information to start pretty much anything, whether it's detailing, whether it's cutting hair, real estate. I know we didn't really talk too much about real estate, but I'm sure we'll do a follow-up episode, and we'll keep people updated, just because where we're currently at isn't where we're going to be months from now, and it's always evolving. So I would love to catch up at some point and kind of give an update on where we're at. And
I'll be more than happy to be back here.
I appreciate you for stopping by, sharing all of this with my audience. What are some ways that people can find you? I know you mentioned the podcast, but just to give the audience more clear, where can they find you? What are the names of the podcast, your social medias? And we'll link it down in the description as well. But go ahead.
Well, first of all, I would say thank you so much, and thank you for the space, for having me, and for inviting me to come to your studio. It was amazing to getting to know you, and thank you for the opportunity here with your audience as well. And people can find me on Instagram at, I think it's Vania, so my first name, Vania, Vania Gam, so like my last name, Gamb, and then I was gonna say on Facebook, but there's some people that use it. There's some other that don't, but yeah, mainly on Instagram, and then on YouTube with our podcast, Raíces Conectadas. So we have the podcast both on YouTube and Facebook. We get a lot of audience from Facebook, and then we're transitioning to doing those shorts for TikTok as well. So we'll be very, very soon on TikTok, and that's mainly where they can follow us. Yeah.
Pretty much whatever platform you're on, you can find it. And we're gonna link all that in the description.
Awesome.
But Vania, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time, and I hope to do another episode in the future.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you very much.
Good job.
Nice.
That's a wrap on today's conversation with Vania Lopez. I hope you got as much out of it as I did. If you're feeling inspired, remember that the best way to start is to just take the first step. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know your biggest takeaway. And if you're ready to get serious about growing your business, don't forget to check out our sponsor, New Gen Marketing Company. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Catch you in the next one. Peace.